This is Dr. Kerry Graves with the Second Wind Podcast, and you are listening to a Fraser Chronicles podcast here on the Fraser Chronicles Podcast Show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the leadership series. This is part 3 of the leadership series, and today we're going to be talking about failing leadership or failed leadership. And the first thing I want to say is today's show is sponsored by our very own decalworld.com. The show, again, is sponsored by decalworlds.com. Make sure to visit them for all of your sports merchandise needs and wants. And before we get started, we also want to do a shout out to all of our listeners all around the world, globally, in the United States, as well as international. We want to thank you all, and we want you to keep following us and make sure you continuously spread the word about Fraser Chronicles. Well, I am David, aka Preacher Man, here on the Fraser Chronicles Podcast Network, and jumping right in here on failed leadership. Failed leadership is failing to lead yourself as well as others. Again, it's failing to lead yourself as well as others. A lot of times people get caught up in failed leadership being just failed to lead others. But when it comes to failing leadership, and I take this personal, and I take this as an importance to in the leadership ramification of things, is that in order to fail in leadership, you have to first fail yourself. You have to fail yourself because you didn't go on with a plan. And if you did go on with a plan, you failed to achieve the plan's goals. Not only that, you failed to lead others. And failing to lead others is very vital to a corporation, to a business, to yourself, to a home, to a church, to anything. You must be able to lead. You must be able to lead. When someone today is looking to move into a leadership position, which we see and we know that some of you that are listening are probably thinking about leading other folks. Maybe you're not in the leadership role right now. Maybe you've done an interview. Maybe you are preparing for the interview to be in a leadership position. Many people don't understand the expectation as a leader. And you might be saying, well, that's not entirely correct, because most people, when they get these leadership jobs, they know what to expect. They know what the expectation is of them as a leader, and to be great, to do the things that are necessary. But the reason I say here today that a lot of people don't know what the expectation is because sometimes they are being misled by leaders in the organization. And what that means is sometimes they're being misled. You know, some leaders show that, oh, because you're in leadership, you have special privileges, special rights, and you don't have to be at work at 8 o'clock or 8:30 if that's the time to start. You could be here at 9. If you're a leader and you might be under leadership who doesn't take being on time serious, all right, and many people might say, well, that's not right. Well, everybody has different leadership styles, but leadership that's failed leadership is leadership that does not do things correctly. They don't do things in order. They don't do things that's bringing positivity in the organization, right? And maybe you're in a sales job. You have a leader who's all about upselling, right? Making people buy things that they don't need, right? That's not good leadership. That's just not good leadership. Or maybe you work at a store, right? Maybe you work in a store. You have leadership who's all about make sure that you're watching people who's stealing, right? What about helping people find things instead of watching people who's stealing, right? So again, leadership can fail you and as well fail themselves. Maybe you're a part of a transportation. Maybe you're part of your community's outreach, right? And there's funds that's coming in, and y'all are not doing the right things with the funds. Your leader, your leadership is saying, "Oh, don't worry about that money. We can spend this. They won't notice." That's bad. That's failed leadership. They're failing you to be a leader who fails, all right? Because they're failing, and you're learning from failed leaders. how to be a leader. That translates into failed leadership on your behalf as well. So when we talk about leadership and the expectation, right? If you don't know the expectation, you're gonna fail. All right. And if your leadership doesn't know the expectation, they fail. Okay, that's failed leadership. Everybody who right now is in leadership or looking at joining leadership ranks, we all have something in common, and we all have leaders we like, and we all have leaders we dislike. I'm gonna say that again. We all have leaders we like, and we all have leaders we dislike. When we become leaders, we always say, "I'm changing this or that." That's a lot of mentality around the leadership, right? When you are an employee and you're working under the management system, and you're saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna be like this manager. I'm gonna let people do what they want. I'm gonna let people take time off. I'm gonna let people kind of just kind of hang out, just do what they want to do, right? I'm not gonna be as harsh on people, right?" We all say we're gonna change some things. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna be the leader that does this and that. I'm not gonna be the leader that tells you to do things that I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna be the leader who doesn't know policy if that in the workplace, right? That's the worst thing, to be a leader and don't know the policy. And I've been around leaders who don't know policy. I've been around those things. And it's confused because when you go with a policy that's correct, they intend to try to fight that policy as if it doesn't exist. And that's because they failed to learn policy. And if you fail to learn policy, you fail to lead. That's failure in leadership. If you're not training people for the job that you want them to do, you're failing people, not only them, but you're failing yourself because you're not taking the necessary steps to be a true leader. You're just in a seat. And we all know people who are just in a seat and continuously each and every day fail to lead. That is failed leadership. When we look at leadership on a different level, all right, and failed leadership is the topic for today. Failed leadership or failing to lead is the topic for today. If you're just joining, leadership that fails are leaders who have no leadership training. Now, what am I saying? What am I saying? What is leadership training? Let's start off with that. Leadership training is being taught the expectations, the standards, how to make people happy in an organization, and understanding that you're not going to make everybody happy in an organization, right? And at the same time, make sure that you are leading by example and you're leading by the standard, right? And you can't have shortcomings as a leader. That gives everybody else an opportunity to have their shortcomings, right? But also correcting people, right? And when you're correcting, it's not about firing them. That's not what I'm saying. Correcting is saying, hey, let's sit down, let's talk, and let's get this, right? And we know in failed leadership, none of this happens, right? None of this stuff happens. There's no leadership training. Leaders that fail, they don't attend training seminars. They don't attend leadership trainings or conferences. All right. They just do what they got to do to get by. And that's really bad in leadership. They just do what they got to do to get by. Feel their way around, not really understanding leadership. All right. Leadership is a big deal. If you're listening to the series, if you've been following, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because if you fail as a leader, you're failing everybody around you. And that is wrong. Okay. That's just not right. Failed leaders fail to learn new things. All right. You should be continuously educating yourself. And when we fail in leadership, it's because we fail to learn. We fail to educate ourselves. We fail to continuously develop. Failed leaders fail to develop. You have to continuously develop. You have to continuously learn the trends and all of these things. All right. And when we don't do that, we fail. This is another one that I really want everybody to look. If you have a pen and a paper and you're following this, I want you to write this down. Failed leaders are selfish and they're all about themselves. Failed leaders are selfish and they're all about themselves. All right. And what does that mean? They don't care what what the people around them want to do. They don't care that if somebody wants to get promoted. They don't care that somebody wants to might transfer to another department so that they can get into a promotional seat, right? They don't care. They're all about the work environment where we're at. We're going to do what we do over here. We don't care about what you're trying to do over there. You're going to follow us and you're going to follow what we do. And we're going to do it this way, and that's it. I'm not open to discussion. I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm not going to tell why it's important that we do what we do. That's failed leadership. That's failed leadership at its finest. And when we look at it, who wants to be around that? Another thing, if you're having a piece of paper and pen and you're writing, taking notes, or you're trying to grasp what things you want to take out of this, this is something else that's high in failed leadership. Is placing the needs around you, of the people, employees, or the people around you, placing the needs of the people around you below your needs. Right? You're saying as the leader, if my needs come first, then I make sure your needs are met or helped out after I get what I want. And as a leader, we can't be that. That's failing to lead. All right, lead by example. If you were an employee and you had a supervisor and they're placing their needs above yours, and you're telling them, hey, I would like to learn how to do this. I would like to learn how to be the HR manager. I would love to learn how to be a supervisor, how to counsel people, how to make the organization run. And they don't care. And they're saying, well, I don't need you to learn that. I want you to do this. They're not placing their needs. They're failing you as a leader. All right. And they're failing themselves and they're failing the organization. See how it's affecting everybody around you? That's what failed leadership does. It affects everybody around you. It affects everybody, not just them. All right. Being a leader, all right, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of educating yourself, and attending workshops, seminars, and attending leadership conferences and things of that nature. Another thing with failed leadership is having leadership who is not responsible. All right, and we're going to talk about being financially responsible. I think that's a big thing. The first thing is they're drowning in debt themselves. To the point they're not able to get to work, to the point that they're borrowing money from the workers in the facility, right? This is failed leadership. Whether people believe it or not, this is failed leadership. This is a failed leadership on the part of the leader, okay? They should never borrow money from their employees, all right? They should be able to manage the funds and the money that they're getting. How they're not managing budgets in the workplace, right? So the workplace is always in the red, in the negative, right? We never have enough of, because we're spending things on things that we don't need. All right. They're not having great decision-making skills, making bad choices that affect everyone in a negative manner within an organization, within a company, right? It could be in their own home. Right? And I think everybody is in leadership. If you're a parent, you're in leadership. You're in leadership at your house, right? And in order for your house to maintain, you have to make sure that you're leading correctly. And when you fail to lead, the things in your house fail. All right. Your kids might fail in school. They might fail a class. Why? Because just the poor leadership in the home, right? Bills not getting paid. That's poor leadership. So leadership is not just in the working environment. It's at home as well, right? So we all got to make sure that we're doing our part and making sure that we are not creating a failed environment. Failed leadership is also creating a hostile working environment. Now, we all work in life, and some of you are probably listening, you work, some are retired, but can relate to this, that I work in a hostile working environment. My boss continuously is not treating any of us with respect, besides the other leaders who are supervisors, right? Failed leadership is when you are in a working environment and you go into your office and sit down and don't say good morning to anybody, right? And you go in your office, you shut your door and you hide for the whole day. And then you come out when you want to discipline somebody. That's failed leadership. That's failed leadership. All right. Not you want everybody to be in compliance, but you're not in compliance, right? You're not training. That's failed leadership. That's failed leadership. Again, placing others around, putting others around you against one another. That happens in a work environment. That's failed leadership. And I've seen leaders do that. If someone comes in with a complaint or a concern about a particular individual, the supervisor or the boss of that company will tell that person who told them on what day and what they said. And sometimes, and that creates a hostile working environment because I have to work around that individual. I'm daily working with that. Why, creating a hostile working environment is very, very, it's an uneasy situation. It makes people not want to come to work. It makes people feel like they're not wanted in the workplace. It's a lot when we talk about this type of leadership, failed leadership. Anybody who knows leadership knows that that it's a high standard. The standard is really high, and not everybody can meet the standard because everybody does not have leadership capabilities. Right? I could teach you leadership, but are you going to follow leadership? Right? We can attend all the seminars and all the conferences in the world, but if we're not taking the good things and we're not bringing the good things back, we're failing as leaders. If we're not constantly bringing the best out of people, we're failing constantly. Failed leadership, right? Many people in failed leadership get to step down, right? They get stepped down, or they resign, or you hear about them getting fired or on administrative leave without pay. You hear all of these things because they failed in leadership. Failing in leadership is terrible management. If people who fail in leadership can't tell you anything about how to lead, they can tell you everything to do about what things not to do when you're leading. Because they failed. They are in a position to not teach you the great things to do to leadership. Right? And when we look at leadership, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to be responsible. We have to place the needs above others before ours. We have to make sure that others, when they need time off, they get the time off deserved. And I think too many times leaders are trying to rule with the iron fist, and that's failing to lead. That's failed leadership. You don't have to be the person who walks around with the iron fist, who constantly goes around and micromanages everybody. That's failed leadership. If you're micromanaging in a working environment or you're micromanaging in any aspects, you're failing to lead, because you should be leading folks to be able to take a task and do it, not take a task, do it, or half do it, and then you're checking behind them and they have done it, and now you have this issue. That's why it's imperative as a leader, you have to continuously teach. You have to continuously teach yourself so that you can teach others. You have to continuously have meetings that are going to draw positivity in the people around you. Not bring a bunch of negative things to a meeting. Because if I'm a leader and all I can do is go into a meeting with 100 things that are wrong, and I don't have one thing that's right, I failed to plan and I failed to lead. In order to plan, I have to say, okay, if I have 100 things that are bad, I have to have 100 solutions to each one. That's how that works. That's how you create leaders in leadership. That's how you create great management, right? And a lot of times, a lot of jobs are not doing these things. They're just, ruling with this, I got to fire this person. People get a kick out of firing people. I don't know why, but they get a kick out of firing people. That's failed leadership. That's failed leadership. Your object shouldn't be to fire people. The object should be to develop and create new leaders so that when they go to the next level, they're able to be a leader. When they come from under your leadership, people should say, oh, I love having people that come from that type of leadership, because those are the people that succeed. But if you're failing as a leader and people don't like you as a leader, then you might want to check yourself, and you do need to check yourself. And this goes for anybody. You can use this in your daily life. You can use this in your home. This is not just for the working place environment. This is leadership that's on every level. This is leadership that can be done in the church. This is leadership that can be done at home, right? This is leadership that happens in the workplace. You can fail in all aspects of leadership if you don't develop great leadership characteristics, all right? And the last thing I'm going to say as I close and wrap up this Fail or Failing to Lead podcast, this is part 3, is that in order to fail in leadership, In order to fail in leadership, you must acknowledge, you have to acknowledge that you're failing. You must acknowledge that you're failing. You shouldn't wait for somebody to come and tell you, oh, I don't want to work up under this leadership because it's failed. Okay? And the thing about it is, if this is you, if you know somebody who's going through this, if you know somebody who's dealing with this, if maybe you're dealing with it yourself, right? Go develop yourself so that you can be great at leadership when it's your time. Go attend the seminars. There's virtual seminars. There's seminars in person. All right. So the world, there's a lot of seminars and there's a lot of conferences you can attend that deals with leadership and becoming great at leadership. All right. And make sure that you are developing into the great leader that you know you are and that you want to be. All right. With that being said, I'm David, aka Preacher Man, and I hope that you continuously follow us the series, and I hope also that you are enjoying the series here on leadership here on the Fraser Chronicles podcast. And we have part 4 coming out real soon as well. So overcoming bad leadership, which is part 4, and and in this leadership journey that we're on here in this series is wanting everybody to develop into great leaders. And we want people to understand when you have good leadership and when you have bad leadership and how to take a step back. So all of these are great for the workplace. These are all great for your home. This is all great for teaching your children. And again, we hope that you are enjoying the leadership series here on Fraser Chronicles podcast. And we also want to just thank you all again for listening all around the world. And we hope that this leadership series you can take to your work environment and it can help others around you. Again, I'm David, aka Preacher Man, and until the next episode, I'm signing off.